Good evening, everyone. I'm Ronald Presner, Chairman of the Zoning Board of Appeals for the Town of Mount Pleasant. Before we start tonight's meeting, let me first introduce the members of our board. To my far right is Adrian Novak. To my immediate right is Mr. Nicholas DeCicco. To my left is Ms. Kathy Naclario. She's Secretary of Planning and Zoning. To her left is Mr. Herb Dorr, and at the far end is Mr. George Lapatos. And sitting across here at the building department is Mr. Joseph Briganti, who is the building inspector for the town of Mount Pleasant. We have four items on the agenda for tonight. I'm going to switch this around a little. We have one application that may be a little involved. So I want to start the first one at 25-3, which is Robert Villani, owner of premises located at 26 Galloway. Please come forward.
Chairman, I request an opportunity to recuse myself for this matter.
All right, Ms. Novak requests to be recused from this. That's fine. All right, raise your right hand, sir. Testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And you are Robert Villani. You're the owner of the premises located at 26 Galloway Lane in Valhalla.
I am.
All right. And on the tax map, it's 117.6-1. -8, and the application is for a proposed 6-foot-high fence in an existing single-family dwelling on a .28 acre land, 0.28 acres in an R10 zone. Maximum fence height is 4 feet. You're looking for 6 feet. You're asking a 2-foot variance.
Yes, sir.
Okay. When we were out there on Saturday, we did our inspections. You did not have at the time the lot layout of where your property
We have
starts.
a written survey. We're waiting for the property to be staked.
Okay. But the property will be staked, and the fence has to be 8 inches off the property line.
The order for the staking's already been in. They just haven't been able to get out there.
Okay.
And we're going to do it in 8 inch.
Now, if I recall, you're making it from the back end of your property, of your house. You're going across, whatever, to the property line, going to the back rear property line, coming back, almost like a U-shaped.
Correct. We want to enclose the backyard, 8
Okay.
inches in each direction.
And what you have behind you is what? On the other side of your fence?
Cemetery property.
A cemetery. So nobody's going to disturb you? Okay.
I hope not.
Actually, you don't even need the fence back there, to be honest, for that wall. Now, what we have done in the past is we've approved 6-foot-high fences where the first 5 feet is a solid, and then the upper one has a latticing on it. That is something we would consider.
So the application for 5 feet of solid, 1 foot of lattice.
All right.
is an
Since I have one of those white fences, I will tell you right now, if it's facing the north, you better get a cleaning gun, because you're gonna get mold. So if you're gonna go, you may want to go with a different color. Just giving you a heads up.
Thank you.
All right.
But you're okay with the top foot being lattice, right?
Yes.
And that's
Yeah.
on the plan.
I think it was on the
You told us you had
drawing.
ordered that.
It was on the drawing.
Yep.
Is there anyone here for or against this application? No. Members, Mr. DeCicco, do you have any questions?
No questions. I would just note that we did have a site visit over the weekend, and we did meet the applicant at that time, and looks good to me.
Okay.
The only question I have is on the, I guess it's south side, but looking at your house to the left, you had that wrought iron fence going in that direction. There's old foliage and bushes on that side.
Yeah,
I mean,
familiar
how's
with
this
that.
going to interact with that? I mean, because technically the back wall, the back fence can be 6 feet. The side and the front will have to be 4 feet, what the zoning calls for 4 feet. Is there a reason why they can't be 4 feet coming down the sides?
You mean on the property lines? I mean, we have an 80-pound dog who would see a 4-foot fence
I
as
have
a
a
challenge.
162-pound dog, so I appreciate where you're coming from, but you can train them not to jump in fence.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather just have the comfort of knowing that I have the 6-foot fence and other dogs will stay out and my dog will stay in.
Mr. Lepatos?
I have nothing, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
All right. Does the board wish to make a decision on this application?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve as submitted.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Dorr. Do I have a second?
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Mr. Lepatos. Mr. DeChico?
Aye.
All right, chairman votes aye. It's carried 4-0.
Thank you, everyone.
Next application is 25-2 Jeffrey Crane. Raise your right hand, please. Testimony about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, it is.
And you are?
Jonathan Villani with Annunziata and Villani Design Consultants.
Okay. And this is regarding the premises located at 326 Manhattan Avenue in Hawthorne.
Yes, it is.
If I'm losing my voice, I start to sound like the Godfather, bear with me. It's designated on a tax map as 112.10-2-59, and it's an application proposed for an in-ground swimming pool and a jacuzzi on a single-family dwelling of 7,500 square feet in an R10 zone.
Yes, it is.
And you've got 3 variances you're looking at. Rear yard setback, 5 is required. You're proposing 2, you need 3 feet.
Yes.
Side yard setback, 5 feet required, proposing 2 feet, again 3 feet.
Yes.
And the distance of the main structure, 12, you're proposing 3, you're asking for 9 feet.
Correct.
We were out there on Saturday. You got a lot in there.
As far as,
You got a patio there, you got this, and I think there was a barbecue thing in there or something.
yeah, if you notice that the whole yard is a little dilapidated, so this is a part of a bigger project that they're wiping the slate clean. They previously were granted a variance for the pool, where the pool was 6.5 feet away from the house, but it was compliance in the side and rear yards. But since they're starting from, and I made my clients well aware about the egregiousness of the other variance, which is the jacuzzi 3 feet away from the house, which I let them know that, and I've been here enough to know the distance from the house is very
The jacuzzi
sensitive.
on the side of the house,
Yeah,
there's very little room, if
Yeah.
I recall, and then you have that wall, not even a wall, it's just straight down.
that's all going to
Behind
be,
it.
that's all going to plans on being rebuilt, the retaining walls.
Okay.
So the overall basic project is they want to take the patios out, the kitchen out, clean the slate, become compliant with the distance away from the house with the pool at 12 feet. For safety reasons, also just to decongest that whole corner because they're going to redesign any patios they're going to do on at another date. But they want to put the pool in a little closer to the side and rear, requiring the rear and side yard variances versus compliant with the distance from the house. The jacuzzi is what's creating the egregious variance to the distance to the house because it's 3 feet away from the house.
What's the depth of it's a fiberglass drop-in?
Fiberglass, 5 foot deep all the way through.
5 feet.
It starts out at 0, then it has steps to 3, and then down to 5.
And the pool is about, what, 12 feet long, if I recall?
12 feet wide by, I believe, 24 feet long.
24 feet long. When we were there, you have the pool almost parallel with the side of the house.
Correct.
Right. What if you were able to rotate it 90 degrees?
If we were able to rotate it 90 degrees, it would cut off their entire yard. So they would have no yard from the house to the pool. Because the distance from the stairs, there's a screened-in porch there, as you noticed. Once you came down those steps, you'd be right at the pool. And it would be closer to the house, too. I don't know if I'd even be able to get the 12 feet. I'd have a push and pull game there, too, to whether I'd have 12 feet away from the house and, the distance to the side and rear yards. So it's sort of pick your poison, which one.
And what about the jacuzzi?
You tell me, what about the jacuzzi?
I don't think it could be where it is. They would be almost better off putting the jacuzzis, having them. It's either the pool or the jacuzzi.
Yeah.
That's what it boils down to.
No, then it's the pool, 100%.
There's no, I'm trying to picture in my mind the backyard again, we were there Saturday.
The big
That was the one-
screened-in porch.
Yeah,
With a lot of stairs.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the area that's the 12 feet, what is that corner from? The building itself?
Yes, so if you look here,
Right.
this pool blue is the actual house, so that's the 12 feet to the water's edge, and then 2 and 2. And actually, because it's a free form, it comes away from the property line at certain points, but it's at the water's edge, the closest it would be 2 feet.
I'm going to ask you another dumb question. If you're 2 feet off the fence on that property, you really can't get out of the pool on that side of the property.
Well, the plan, if you noticed around the property too, they have a retaining wall that goes into that corner. So the
Right.
plan would be put the fence on top of the retaining wall that's already existing there. Well, rebuild it obviously, because it's there's some areas where it's dilapidated, restructure it, but then put the fence on top of that.
Right, but the fence, the total fence with the wall would have to be be about 4 feet, unless you come for the variance for 6 feet.
No, the wall right now as it is less than less than 30 inches.
Oh.
It's just there's a small grade difference. We're also going to rebuild the retaining wall because of the watershed. That property behind them is higher, so we got to put a pipe behind there, something to catch the water.
I have no further questions that I can think of at this moment. Ms. Novak?
No questions at this time.
Mr. DeChico?
Did you say that there was a previous variance for the pool? Can you explain that a little bit?
Well, they have the similar drawing, similar freeform pool that was granted to them. I don't recall how many years ago. How many years ago was that?
It was 2012.
We have a copy of it. We're going
12, yeah,
to
okay.
pass it down to Mr. DeChico now.
Which granted them
2012.
6.5 feet, I recall, away from the house,
As opposed to 12.
as opposed to 12. So as I know from experience, there is a super sensitivity, rightfully so, for the safety from the distance from the house. So I actually thought that's why I proposed this to them. I say, if we're going to move the pool, move it to where it complies to the distance of the house, relative to the side and rear yard. I was always wondering, when I saw their variance, I was like, but I've been in front of you guys where it's more sensitive to be certain distance away from the structure than it is from the yard.
2012.
Yeah.
And no action
Yeah.
was ever taken on that variance?
No.
Do you by chance know why they didn't do anything since they applied for it?
I don't know whether it was
Well,
I'd have to find out whether it was a previous owner or it was just a monetary thing, or they decided,
We
because they
just
didn't
know
have
the same owner.
they also didn't have the screened-in porch, so maybe they decided to do the screened-in porch before.
I was just curious why you would wait that long to.
For me, it's money, right? I would imagine.
What about options with a
2012.
smaller pool or one that's designed a little bit?
This is the smallest pool we can get, in a fiberglass, smallest pool. And then also they have 3 different types of pool. Gunite, most expensive, steel wall with liner, and fiberglass. Fiberglass is the smallest size you can get.
The only thing you got to make sure of is that you got some
That much bigger than.
drainage in there, because the hydrostolic pressure will
Well, that's,
raise it up.
so they are aware of that, and the actual, what you were proposing about putting the, rotating the pool, that part of the yard is what's gonna be used for, at least gonna have to put 2 Coltex in. So we're gonna drain it, and it allows me the opportunity to bring the pipe around the house. So I'm gonna put the drainage right next to the pool, and I have to stay 10 feet away from the structure and 10 feet away from the property line. So now everything's starting to get squeezed underground as well as the pool. So I have to fit the 2 Coltex parallel to the
No,
house.
because the reason I say this, I have a pool at home, and it's a liner, steel liner pool. And when we first put it in years ago, didn't realize, and we were up high, up here, off
Yeah.
of, near the high school, there's water.
Yeah.
And in the winter,
Pushes it up.
pushes the plastic right up. And
Yeah, especially,
you look at
I've
it.
made them all aware of that. The
Yeah.
fiberglass pools are made, well, now they're made a little bit stronger, they're different, but the way you pre-treat the ground before you put this pool in, and what we do with the water is pertinent to,
Well, fiberglass, just like boats, there's wooden boats which really
Yeah.
run well, and there's fiberglass boats, they're like corks in the water.
yeah.
A few more questions, Mr.
Sure, go ahead.
If you were to eliminate the side yard variance and push the pool over so you met the 5 feet, do you have an approximation as to what kind of incursion you would make on the house as far as the 12-foot?
So taking this line and bringing it to here, and
Yep.
keeping this,
Yes,
just
roughly.
the way the angle works, I would say 8 or 9 feet.
So you might need in theory, approximate numbers, you might need a 3-foot variance off of 12 if you moved it, but then you wouldn't need a variance off the side at all.
But I need a 3 yard in the back, right?
You still need the back, but right now you're applying for 2 variances. And I don't know how other members think about it. I understand that what you were trying to do is meet the distance from the house to the pool, but we also have to consider neighbors too. And I'm just wondering what the infraction on the variance would be if we kind of tried to help out the side neighbor a little bit more, with the understanding there might be some variance from the house. And but it's all a balance. If it's too much, then
It's
yeah.
like you squeeze one end, the other.
Well, it's
and-
part of the problem you got.
Yeah.
You have a real pickle here, a real pickle.
I thought it was the least
It's a good phrase.
egregious variance for the whole.
But even if you moved it over 5 feet off the side property line, I don't think that the most you're gonna lose is about from 12 feet, it may go to 11.
I've played this whole, I've taken the radius of the whole 12 feet all the way around the house, and as you push the pool closer, it winds up being around a little more than 11. It's probably around 9.5, 10 when you push the pool forward that much.
But with its 2 variances now, it could be 2 variances if you moved it, but a different.
Different variances,
Different
yeah.
variances.
It'll be to the structure and to the, that's why I proposed this, because of the tension. I came here with somebody who already built a pergola that close to the pool, and we cut it back.
Yeah.
And so I thought presenting a 12-foot compliance to the structure would be a better alternative than, the other.
Mr. Dorr, do you have any questions?
But just before I may, Mr.
Sure.
The other issue with those is that there was options in that, I believe in that other one, where if you moved it, it wouldn't necessarily infringe upon the other variants. Like here, we're just trying to, like you said, it's the push and the pull. You move one puzzle piece and it
Yeah.
adjusts the other ones. Whereas I believe in some of the other ones we may be talking about, wouldn't necessarily create one variance by meeting the one issue, perhaps.
Hey, can you pass the
variance.
previous variance down?
Any word from neighbors?
No.
No letters? No, nothing?
All the green cards came back on them.
Have they considered for the jacuzzi, like any one of a number of options you could buy at
Yeah.
Costco?
That's why the pool conversation is a lot more important than the jacuzzi. I said, listen,
And
I'll do it.
NVNs, no variances needed.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, this might be more of an interpretation or a question to Joe. Joe, since back in 2012, they had a zoning where they had approval for 6.5-foot distance from the house. If he took this pool and spun it and pulled it to 5 feet in like Nick was talking about, doesn't that 6 foot still apply?
Yes.
So this 12-foot, even though I totally understand what you're doing and I totally respect that and I agree with what you're saying, but if you took this pool now to address Nick's need of rotating this kidney this way, you still have a little bit more room on this side off the back line, and then you eliminate the side yard 5 foot.
Yeah, it always did.
You follow what I'm saying?
I follow.
Because you already approved 6.5 foot
So
from the
even
house
if
by a prior
even if
board.
I'm 10 feet away from the house, I don't have to be. I don't have to
If
come
the
back. to see it.
interpretation is right, you've already been approved the 6.5. So you're, in my mind, the way I'm interpreting this is, you've got a 6.5 foot
Yeah.
off the house.
Yeah, no,
And
totally
then where
agree.
you could put the pool, so now you're either eliminating at least a 5 foot from the side, from the neighbors to the side.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know what the measurement would be, well, for 6, I don't know what this distance is from the house to the back property line.
30, somewhere at 30 or,
All right, so if we take 6 and we're putting 12 and the 24, I mean, I don't know how that affects your underground, of what we're putting 20 pounds in a 5-pound bag. here,
Yeah.
but-
well, no, listen, from a practical sense, I understand everything you're saying, but I'm just trying to balance the desires of my client versus, you know.
I
'cause
hear what
they-
you're saying, but
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
also trying to alleviate,
Yeah, I know. No, I hear you. I think they're inclined to want to push it in that corner because they want to keep some sort of yard space between their screened-in porch and the pool.
and the only other question I have is why, I think I know the answer, but I'm gonna ask the question anyway. Is it why you putting the jacuzzi all the way over here closer to the front of the house instead of any of the openings into the house?
Yeah, no,
I mean, I have a hot tub myself, and
Yeah.
I,
These were all discussions
it's
that.
easy into the
Yeah,
house.
no, these were all
And this is
discussions
out-
that were,
I don't know how it's shielded.
yeah, these are discussions I had and exhausted and this is the final product. But like I said, the pool is the pertinent topic, not the,
The question for our building department,
sorry.
the variance, we don't have an expiration or a sunset clause on the variance in it?
No, same with the light property. The only thing is, not a time to stay, it's lot rights.
No, I was gonna say, I was gonna inquire about that too, but, because I know
You want to stay with the light property?
that's not universal. That's here. Here we have that. That's not everywhere.
Yeah, no, here we go.
Mr. Lepatos?
Learn something new.
I'm not inclined to go along with the proposal that you've started with. I did think that I could be agreeable to the alternative proposal that Mr. Dorr was suggesting. I think if you change the configuration of the pool in relation to the yard, being that you already have an approved variance that would allow for the substandard distance to the house to be an approved variance that exists. If the pool didn't require 2 variances, one for the rear lot and one for the side lot, but only required one, and the distance to the house already having been satisfied by the prior variance that was granted in 2012, I might be favorably inclined to consider that. But as it stands right now, the 2 non-compliance areas in the rear and side, and now the renewed distance to the house, which again doesn't need to be created, but it's being created because of the new plan that's proposed. It reflects an inconsistency with prior rulings that we've made. I can't think of a single application that I've approved or even had experience with on the board that had this tight of a configuration to the lot lines on 2 sides and distance to the house. It's out of character with the neighborhood, if not the entire town. Again, having no familiarity with an application that presents this many non-compliance features. It's entirely self-created. They already have a variance for a pool. They're choosing to create a new need for an additional variance. For all those reasons, I'm just indicating to you that if you wanted to take an opportunity to have this board vote on it now, that's certainly your right. If you wanted to take an opportunity to discuss with your clients, perhaps addressing the concerns that are shared by 2 members of the board and presenting a alternative layout at a subsequent meeting, that is something that I think the board would be inclined to grant you an adjournment for that purpose. But I want you to know, as it stands right now, because of those issues that I have, I'm going to leave you with those 2 options.
No, I think I,
Can I just want to put on the record, if we can, Mr. Briganti brought this up, and it is true that we often do say, in fact, most of the time, that the plans the variance is approved based upon the plan submitted, so it's interesting to note that back in 2012, that the board then did state that it's resolved that this application be and the same hereby is granted per the plan submitted. So, again, even though I appreciate the point that was brought up, which I think is a relevant point, that you do have a variance already, it would seem that you'd have to look back and see what plans were actually submitted, and that the approval was based upon the actual design as submitted at that time. So,
Do we have copies of those drawings?
No.
Just for edification, whether or not, I can always adjourn to the next meeting, and if I decide to make it back to the variance, if it's compliant with the 6.5 feet, no issue, don't have to, I can just cancel coming back, correct?
well,
Or
but that goes to the point. It's not just a matter of redesigning a new pool to 6.5. I think you're mostly tied to the plans that they submitted. I think if you were to deviate in any substantive way from those plans, that would not be in conformity of the decision.
Okay. We do have a plan, I don't know if it's the official one, that, yeah, the pool's on that plan on the, that pool's on that plan. So their survey, they had a survey with the pool plan on it.
Yeah, the pool is on it, that's what I'm
Yes.
saying. I mean,
The one that's in compliance,
That's part
yeah.
of why I was looking at it.
Yeah.
It's like,
But is the sunroom there?
yes, the screen porch was approved
In
in
2010.
2010.
Yeah, there were two separate variances, I think,
Yeah.
There was 3, yeah.
or the original building permit, but two variances
So
were
that's, yeah,
granted
so
on this
the
property.
pools, they had setback lines 5.5 and 6.5 from the house.
You have a plan for a pool that you just approved, so.
I
Your
understand.
big problem is you have a small backyard,
Understand.
depth-wise and width.
But to resolve it, if it's within the variance compliance.
Yeah, and I would say, just to, this, I know this is more commentary, but I don't know, are your clients here?
No.
You know, I think that the application that was approved by 2012 might not be approved by the board here in 2025. So I think that even though they might not be happy if they don't get what's on this board now, they're probably in better position than most in that they have something that they could do, whereas most people wouldn't and might not get anything along the lines of what they're able to do. So,
That's recorded, right?
yeah.
I'm gonna have to use that in the meeting when I go.
So if you wish to adjourn,
Yeah, I'll wish to adjourn to confer with my clients, and then if, no, I'll just let the building department know that, I'll let Kathy know that I won't be on the next meeting if they
You
decide.
can withdraw.
Yeah, withdraw.
Yeah, and if you have
Yeah.
some other options, we're happy to hear if you want to be.
I think the other options just, are either compliant or, because the variance is there, so I think, it's,
But if you go by how it was drawn on the previous survey, I still think they get what they want if they move that kidney.
yeah,
Because according to that, it fits.
yeah. No, I got you.
Without, within the plan. I mean, I get they want the yard, they want the space. I mean, you're saying they want to take out that outdoor kitchen.
Yeah.
It's a little wear and tear on it,
Yeah.
so.
Absolutely. All right.
okay?
Thank you very much.
All right, so that's adjourned, 25-2. Adjourned until 3:25. Next application is Sand Signs and Awnings, applicant for Thornwood Realty LLC. I need a copy of the layout, if we have
I
it.
was gonna put it.
Good evening.
Good evening. Michael Santalico with Sand Signs and Awnings.
All right.
And James Karas.
All right, one moment. Raise your right hand, please. Testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Okay. And you're Jeffrey Crane? I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong, it's been a bad day today. Sand Signs is the owner, Thornwood Realty is the owner of the premises located at 1 Zeiss Drive in Thornwood, New York, correct?
Correct. And I'm Michael Santalico, representing.
Okay, so on the tax map in town of Mount Pleasant, it's located as 112.8-1-73, and the application is for a proposed installation of 3 signs, 2 new tenant building signs, 1 monument sign on a legal standard parcel of 12.5 acres in an OB5 zone. And basically, 50 square feet required, existing is 35 square feet, and you want 91 square feet.
No, I believe that's incorrect. We want 140.
Proposing 141 or a 91 variance, square foot variance. Now, this is to be placed in the same position that this existing sign is?
That's correct. We intend on removing the existing sign and replacing with the new structure.
Now, behind it is the Chase Bank sign.
It's, if you see how it's situated further to the left and down the street, you still have visibility in both directions.
You show 24 feet between the bottom of the sign and the, and the...
24 inches.
24, I'm sorry.
You
It's-
threw me off there with the...
No, it's not you, it's me, as they say,
That's all right.
okay?
That's all she has.
You ever had one of those days where you think you fell off a cliff and you haven't hit bottom yet?
I
That's
had
what-
one of them today.
Exactly, I'm retrograde. If we can lower this somewhat, 12, you gave examples of other signs, but the tallest one, which was the AF school, but it's a narrow sign.
Correct, but you also have the strip malls that are signed, which is 20 feet tall, which is in
Yeah,
the
but
same
it's
parking lot.
But it stands totally alone.
Understood.
Visually, yes.
One of the reasons for 24 inches is the LED light, was down below it. We certainly can make an adjustment for grade to 18 inches or 12 inches if it satisfies the board. But with that light in front, we didn't want to go ahead and block those two lower tenants when we do fill the space. Because as you're aware, we went from one tenant and now we're at 7. Well, not yet, but we have space for 7.
And that's the main building of the subdivision, of the main
Yeah, you have the
building.
one main building, which was Zeiss.
Right.
And then you have the new development, which is Benchmark.
Well,
which is-
Benchmark we know about. And there are presently, three companies in the Zeiss building.
Correct. Well, Healy is there and operating, Piedmont Plastic is there and operating, and Immortal Fitness is being built out as we speak.
Okay. And there's room for 3 other,
Or one large one, or 2 large, depending on how much space they want.
let's see. And each of the sub-signs are what, 41 inches wide, but you don't show me how high, oh, here they are.
18 inches
18
tall,
inches.
If you look to the right.
Okay. 18 inches is almost the width of this table. A little less, it's about almost 2 feet.
It's small for the area and the site distance. If you see that Healy contract is only going to have a 2.5-inch letter. It's
But the main idea of the sign is to promote Benchmark at Mount Pleasant. That's the,
well, yeah. The main idea is the address and Benchmark, and then secondary is our other tenants that are there. Which
okay.
we've now basically turned this into, I say retail and mixed use.
Okay. What's that? I'm sorry?
In addition to a residential development.
Yeah,
That's the benchmark.
Correct.
yeah. I have no further questions this time. Ms. Novak?
Are your tenants requiring these signs? This size signage? Is it something they're asking for, or it's solely
Not only-
based on your?
No, not only our tenants. If we have applications for Healy and Immortal coming for the ARB for the build as well, but they have requested, everybody has been requesting signages. People can't find them.
So, I don't know what everybody else is gonna think, but I'm probably less opposed than maybe other members of the board would be to the idea of the sign, the stand, and the tower. But that being said, it is almost triple what you're asking for, is almost triple the allowable square footage. So I'm just, anything you could do to reduce it somewhat, would I would look upon favorably And I may be one of, one of your best hopes.
Once again, we need to consider sight distance, and sight distance and function of the sign. If the letter height gets too small, then it's unreadable. And, I mean, we're already at, like I had said with Healy, at 2 3/8, 2.5 inch letter, you know, which is only visible from 30 feet.
Right.
So that's our main concern, is that the sign functions. So just in size, it's gotta be in its proper spot, and it's gotta work for us.
Well, and also you're driving on Columbus Avenue at 45 miles an hour.
Well, we hope not 45.
What's that?
I think it's a
Isn't it
30
speed
there.
limit 30?
Yeah, it's
No.
30 there.
I was gonna say.
No, when it gets, is what's interesting, in front of the elementary school, you can do 45, but then when you pass the building department, it drops to 30. So there's, nobody does 30 over there,
Agreed.
all right?
You could commit to dropping the base 12 inches?
Yes, sure.
Mr. Chico, I think we're looking at clarification. I mean, we're talking about dropping the monument sign inside the, on the street that we looked at. But then the other two are the building signs that are in on the buildings themselves. So the
Correct.
square footage requirement that you're talking about can be shrunk or decreased if the building signs are also decreased.
Why would we want to decrease the building
All-
signs when
for
they're not
all
even
three
visible from the
signs
street or even have
they're
any
asking
relevant?
It's lowering, to Mr. DeChico's point, of square feet.
Yeah.
Is it a matter of the square footage of the overall sign, Nick, or is it a matter of the height? or-
We're talking about overall square footage. You're asking for a variance of 3 times the amount.
But look at where we're picking our variances from. The building is not even visible from the street. I mean, those two variances should be taken off the table, and we should just talk about the variance for the monument sign. One shouldn't hinder the other, Nick.
But
Still
So
square
you could
footage in
address
the
the
aggregate.
board, but the
The
idea of,
aggregate of all of it together.
Oh, no, I
The way it's
understand.
written here.
No, I understand, but I don't think it's fair, and there's mitigating circumstances to that in this instance, that these signs are, what, 500 yards off the street? They're not even visible until you're in the parking lot.
But these signs that are on the building usually would fall under the purview of the ARB.
It does, but
Which
they're
they
over the
do,
square
which they
footage
do, but
for
because,
everything.
because this was a one-tenant building and we've exceeded the 50 square foot of signage allowed, we have to come before you, sir. So at 50 square feet, for how many square feet is the overall building? I don't know, it's 100,000 square foot? So these are very large properties with square footage of 50 square feet. We've taken a building that had one tenant historically here in the village and now made it into a multi-tenant and then added a residential to it as well. The sign code doesn't fit what is needed for this property.
Well, I'm not concerned about the residential property at this point, but if we just discuss the signs that are put on the building, if they were treated individually rather than a whole package, then because they're different applications. One is an application for a sign on a building, which is like an awning,
But you can't.
or you have a freestanding sign, which is under the jurisdiction of the zoning board.
Can't separate it.
But you
can't
can't
separate
separate
it.
it because it has a
Separate.
maximum square footage of 50
It's for the
square
whole
feet as per
entire-
code.
Yeah.
And I agree with you, maybe that's something that needs to be changed or amended within the
The zoning
code.
down the road, but that's not our.
It's not a,
We only have the code that we have
Oh,
in
and
place
I-
at the
and I
time the
understand and I
application's made.
respect that
But I do
100%.
understand the conflict that you're raising, and I think we all do.
It is a unique situation. We do have a pylon sign down the street, which is double in square footage of what ours is proposing. That's existed for years and is extremely unsightly in its current condition.
You referring to the one for the Rose Hill Shopping Center?
Correct.
But that's a shopping center.
Understand, but is it, now that this is turning into a multi-tenant and Immortal is retail, it's a gym, Healy Contractors will have their clients coming there, Piedmont Plastics is a pickup facility, so how much different is it from retail?
I think there's a several areas we could distinguish the two, as far as the foot traffic and overall. But I understand your point. It's not, this is becoming more of an active use property than a stagnant or complacent use where you just have a few people coming in and out. I think that point is valid to a degree. I don't know.
I think to your point, Nick, if you can lower the sign down so it's not up super high, I'd be turned to be more agreeable, because we also, if you remember, we had the application for another benchmark sign on the other side of that same entranceway, so now it's being all confirmed into one sign.
If we drop it, that doesn't affect
doesn't
the
affect
square
the variance,
footage, but it
it
affects
does
our
the
impact
appeal.
based upon the design submitted.
Correct.
So, yeah.
12 inches won't make a difference to us. We can modify the light and we can work within that if that appeases the board.
You show the benchmark at Mount Pleasant at about 38 inches high, right? And you have a lot of additional advertisement on there. Benchmark a senior living experience, assisted living and memory care.
Keep in mind, that's their branding, that's corporate branding, and that 38 inches does include the address, which is up above.
And that's ARB.
Yeah, and to the point that that's ARB reviewed, ARB has already reviewed and approved a sign that's consistent with that, interior to the site, that's already been constructed.
I can
this
see,
branding is-
I can understand it on the, when you go up the Zeiss Drive and you have that secondary sign there pointing to that area. I'm just trying to see how we can somewhat lower this. And, for example, Healy Electric Contractors, it's not a retail operation, so the only people that come to them are their own employees. Am I correct?
And their clients.
That's still.
And Piedmont Plastic does what?
They manufacture plastic products. We're a
Okay.
client of theirs as well as they're a client of ours.
All right, so they really don't have anybody there except a truck coming to pick up their
That's
product.
not true, sir. That is
How can you be a
absolutely not.
manufacturing company and
They
have people come in and see?
They have a huge pickup window at Piedmont Plastics. They do an extreme amount of volume out of there and a lot of traffic.
You do a lot of deliveries as well of materials, there's several loading docks.
I'm not concerned about that, but I'm concerned about is that it's not public, they don't do any public selling.
Yes, they do, sir.
They do. So
Yes,
it's
they do.
retail and manufacturing?
Yes, they do. It's retail and wholesale.
I don't know. I really don't know at this point.
I mean, we're talking about currently at a little over 11 feet in height. You got Rose Hill, which is 20 feet in height. We're at 7 feet wide. Bringing this sign down 12 inches will bring it down to a little over 10 feet in height. The sign is small for its current location as proposed, as I expressed to you regarding to the letter height. The sign has to function. Without it functioning, then it's useless.
And the lettering on the signs for like Piedmont Plastics or
I
Healy,
didn't call out that lettering, but I would estimate that Piedmont Plastics is about a 4-inch letter, maybe a 5-inch letter tops.
Mr. Chairman, unless there's any public, I'd ask that we see if there's any public commentary unless the applicants have anything to add at this point.
is there anyone for or against this particular application? No, we have nobody here.
Mr. Chairman, I'd ask that we discuss this further in a business session at the end of the agenda.
Is that agreeable to the board?
Unless the members are ready to vote, then that's certainly fine.
I'm prepared to vote.
I mean,
I'm prepared to vote.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve this application with the only stipulation that it's lowered to that 18 inches instead of the 2 feet,
I think it was 12
or
inches.
12 inches, from that standpoint?
Okay,
Second.
Second by Mr. DeChico. Ms. Novak,
I vote no.
you vote no. Mr. Lepantos?
I vote aye.
Aye. And the chairman votes yes, so it's carried 3-2.
Thank you.
Try to move it a little
Mr.
bit.
Chairman, 4-1.
It's 4-1.
4-1, I'm sorry. It's like I said, it's been a bad day.
I hear you.
Yesterday and today's
Mine
been
just got
terrible.
better.
You know, it's funny, I had, in my office, I lost all my telecommunications equipment. We had the people come in, they fixed it, but they loused up all my computer systems. So, that's why I'm a little like this today.
Am I supposed to give these to someone?
Me. Thank you.
Appreciate your help.
You got it.
Okay.
No problem.
All right. All right, last application is 2451, Gerald Pagello and Mary Ann Martin Pagello. All right, and you are?
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. My name is Michael Sheridan. I'm an attorney with Snyder and Snyder, the attorneys for the Pagellos in connection with their appeal of the building inspector's determination issued on November 26th.
All right, I'm going to read the your application, then I'm going to comment. The Pagellos are challenging a November 26, 24 determination made by the building inspector, which held that the property located at 429 Hagan Road on a tax map 107.17-2-16 satisfies the street frontage requirements for New York State Town Law 280A as well as Town Code 218-9 and A 227-23. Okay. In all the years that I've served on this board, both as a member and chairman,
Sir, could you speak up a little?
I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice. You hear that? Okay. In all the years that I've served on the zoning board, we have never had an application come before us to re-examine a decision that this board has made in the past. I don't know if we're in a position to discuss it. You had a certain determination, a time limit for if you wanted to file an Article 78. That didn't happen. And I don't know what to do at this point.
Well, let me
I'm not a lawyer, so
let
bear
me
with
try and
me.
assuage your fears, Mr. Chairman. This is not that, because the application that you reviewed several months ago and the determination that you made several months ago had just to do with the width of the frontage of the property. So if I were to file an Article 78 saying that you made a determination on 280A that the road was compliant with 280A, people would look at me like I'm crazy because your determination was not that. Your determination merely dealt with the frontage of the property and the width of the frontage of the property. And that is, if you read your determination again, that is all the decision that you made. You did not make this determination. I am not here to rehash something that you discussed, that you talked about, that you evaluated. What I'm here to do is to talk about a different issue that was not raised or discussed at your prior hearings. And this issue is that the easement that the applicants for the subdivision are trying to use does not comply with Town Law Section 280A, which is incorporated into this town's zoning code and subdivision code. So this is a completely new thing. I know the applicant from the subdivision is going to tell you it's the same thing, it's rehashed. I think his letter says you proved it basically by omission because you didn't say it wasn't compliant. That's not the way it works. This issue is being brought to you. This is a new issue. This is an issue of first time you're hearing about it, the first time we're going to discuss it. I'm happy to discuss it with you.
Yeah, counsel, I'm going to have to take exception with that, though. Mr. Chairman, could I be heard?
I just want to say one thing.
Sure.
If there was a swimming pool, if I recall that property, there was a swimming pool on that property. If that swimming pool was eliminated, you would have the 100-foot frontage, and you wouldn't be before the zoning board.
But that's not why I'm here.
But then that would be true with the other properties along Davidson, would it not? The subdivisions?
But that's, no, the issue why I'm here is because, and I could go to the if there wasn't a pool and they didn't come for that variance, I could have gone to the building inspector, the same as I did during the planning board portion of the applicant's application, and say to the building inspector, they're trying to get access over this easement, which does not comply with 280A. Can you give me an interpretation? I could get an interpretation from the building inspector, which I did, which...
But that's not necessarily true.
Well,
I mean, Mr. Chairman, when you're...
I got to have some order here. Excuse me? I think we had a letter from Mr. Grimaldi that was sent to us.
Yes, I understand you did.
Challenging what you said. Now, like I said, I'm not a lawyer, so bear with me, okay? There was also a letter from the fire department.
Right,
Regarding
which should concern the board, that...
Well,
It doesn't, because
It
that's
doesn't.
Perhaps we should let Mr. Lopazos explain
Explain
what we
certain
believe the board's position is on what Mr. Sheridan has already said so far.
okay.
And the fire department stuff, I'm an ex-fire chief in this town, that does not come in front of this board, it comes in front of the planning board. While it's read and accepted from here, it's not an issue that we address. It's addressed on the planning and the building department side.
Well, with all due respect, I think it is relevant because what he's saying is that the road does not have enough room for...
Like I said, it's a different topic, and it's not for the zoning
I
board. We
understand.
don't make that decision, we do not do that. As a fire chief, I can give you an opinion based
So-
on the houses that are currently there. Fire apparatus, when those houses were built, were even smaller. Fire apparatus now, so you'd be creating an issue for a lot of different things. So it's not part of this board to discuss that letter.
I respectfully, if I
disagree,
get to my presentation, there is a point where I think it does come into play, but that's...
See, what I wanted to do
would
is just, that before you do start your presentation, address a threshold issue. And I want you to understand that before I address that issue, there was a significant amount of research that was done by the board. The minutes from the previous two sessions that we had in connection with the prior variance that was granted, it was Z2420. Those minutes were reviewed just to ensure that my recollection, as well as other members of the board, was accurate to the extent that there were several issues that were discussed during that meeting, and there were certain determinations that were made incident to the application. One of which was the threshold determination of what variance was required by the applicant. Now, the determination that was made was that an 85-foot distance was required for that applicant to obtain the variance that they needed for their road width. The reason that that 85-foot distance was applied to that application was because Davidson Drive was a street. We entertained comment on that during the meeting, and we made that threshold determination in connection with the variance that we entertained, and we did apply not only the 60-foot distance that would normally be applicable in the R40 zone, but we added the enhanced 25-foot additional feet because of the fact that in that zone, again, off of a street, the additional 25-foot was required, which made it for an aggregate of 85 feet. We entertained that application based upon an 85-foot distance for the exact reason that we had made the threshold determination that Davidson Drive was a street. When we granted the variance on that application, there was no challenge made with respect to an aggrieved party pursuant to 267A12, which would have been an opportunity for a rehearing. Thereafter, 120 days lapsed and there was no application made for an Article 78 to challenge our determination in the Supreme Court. Another available option, if there was a challenge to be raised to the determination that we made, or any determinations incident, such as the characterization of Davidson Drive. So when this board was confronted with a request by a party who had not previously been heard at that meeting back in the summer, there was a request for what was characterized as an interpretation. What it in effect was a request for a reiteration of the determinations that were made in connection with the variance decision back in July. A reassertion or clarification or repeat of something that was previously decided does not restart a limitations period, though. So there continues to be an expired limitations period both for a rehearing and or an Article 78. So when the request was made for a letter to be drafted by the building department in November, and a letter was in fact drafted, that doesn't mean that that letter constitutes a new determination that restarts a new limitations period. It wasn't an interpretation under the code. In fact, it was a repeat, a reassertion of what had previously been determined by the board incident to the variance application that we had entertained and decided in July. So the reason why I'm trying to address this issue before you get started with your presentation is because we don't necessarily believe that you have an opportunity to be heard in connection with an interpretation application, because there was no interpretation made in this case. Even though Mr. Briganti did write a letter in November, that letter doesn't necessarily constitute an actionable interpretation under the code, and it's our determination before this application is heard that there is no interpretation to challenge pursuant to the town law, and therefore this application, as it only constitutes a challenge to an interpretation, doesn't actually have, in effect, standing to be heard at this time on the basis of the November letter, which was, I believe, the determination rather that you were seeking to challenge. So for those reasons, I don't believe that you have an opportunity to raise the issues that you're seeking to raise through this application, even though it was placed upon the agenda. That wasn't done with the knowledge of the board members, and the board members prior to this meeting commencing did have an opportunity, as I said, to not only review the minutes from the previous two sessions that we had in connection with variance application Z24-20, but upon review, it confirmed what we had recollected, and that is that the earlier determination that Davidson Drive was a street was made incident to the variance that we approved back in July. And for those reasons, we don't believe that you have an opportunity now to be heard in connection with a challenge to the November letter written by the building department, which was merely restating a finding that was made incident to that determination back in July. So for those reasons, we're not entertaining your application, and I believe that's the position of the board. If we can take a vote on it, we can put finality to it.
Well, I'm just curious, when did the board discuss this? If you already have a determination made, when was this?
July.
When did this discussion happen for tonight, that you're speaking for the board, and you're saying that you have all made a determination that you're not going to hear this application? At what point?
Discussing now.
No. He's speaking for the board now, and he's saying you've all come to the same determination. When did that discussion happen?
6:45, I think we met.
So in violation of the open meetings law, you made...
No,
you
we
said-
were
you-
simply preparing
No,
research, as
no.
I said, to review
That
the
is-
minutes.
That is a violation of the open meetings law, but we can talk about that later. First, I disagree with you.
We oftentimes research it. No, but you don't have to disagree with me. Your application's been rejected.
No,
There's
but
nothing more to talk about.
I will-
In
I
all
will-
candor, we can vote on it now, though.
I will
put
disagree with
finality
you.
to it,
I'm not
and you certainly can make your record, and I'm
Well,
sure that you want an opportunity to do so.
I would like to make
But
my
you
point.
can't override
Thank you.
the fact that we're not entertaining your application on the merits. You understand that?
I would like to have my opportunity to speak in front of the board.
Well, I think the idea is that we don't believe, based upon the reasons Mr. Lapazos has put on the record, that you have an opportunity to speak tonight because of what he said and his interpretation, which I, for one, agree with. And if the other members of the board also agree, I'm not sure we need to formalize a vote on that particular issue, but if the other members agree with Mr. Lapazos is saying, then I would just move that we close all the public session for tonight and move into a business session as necessary, and/or adjourn the meeting.
May I have an opportunity to speak, Mr. Chairman?
I think at this point, we should go into a business session.
A business session to discuss what? Again, this is in violations of the open meetings law. I
No,
would like to have this,
hold on, business sessions are not in violation of the open meetings law. You know,
if you're going to discuss my application behind closed doors,
that's
that
not,
is...
we never said that.
No.
We proposed two.
Anyway,
different
I would like an
there is-
opportunity just to make one point about,
There is-
about this, what has just been sprung upon me.
There is an
After coming to this
executive-
meeting, preparing for this meeting, bringing the applicants to this meeting, I think as residents of your town, they have a right to be heard before you just vote us out. You brought us, you kept us here for the entire meeting till the end of the meeting, and you indicated early on that it was going to be something that might take some time, only to spring this on us and say, you're not going to allow us to speak, and you're not going to allow us to have an opportunity to be heard in front of this board. And I think going on I watched the early meetings, I wasn't present at them, but watching the early meetings, saying there were several occasions when there were people in the audience who, some of these neighbors who wanted to complain, and this board said, no, the only thing that this board is reviewing is the small variance for the frontage on the property. It did not indicate that it was determining that this is an actual road, which it's not, because it's not a road anywhere. It's a right-of-way easement, which is a different entity. The board did not consider nor discuss the 280A issue. I watched the meetings. The board did not make a determination that it was in fact a road. The board started, because of the applicant's submission, the board started with the understanding that it was a street and it was a road, and then it moved to approve the variance based on that misunderstanding that this was a road. This board did not discuss, make a determination, come to a conclusion that this was in fact a road and not just a right-of-way easement. This board did not do that. The fact that you're saying you did do that now is disingenuous and is, to the face of the constituents, the citizens of your town, I think you should give them the opportunity to explain to this board why, if in fact you did make that determination, which you did not, it is wrong. But just the fact you did not make that determination. You came in saying it was a road, saying it was a street, and you made a minor variance approval based on frontage. Several of the people who live in that area came to this board and had some things to say about the application. This board told them, and if you watch the meeting, you can see the quote unquote, this board told them, no, we're not here for anything else. We're only here for this one variance. So determining that it was a road is something else. So this board misled the people who came to discuss this meeting. This board did not discuss whether it was a road, did not make a determination whether it was a road, did not go through the factors of whether it is in fact a road. It is not. It is a right-of-way easement. I can explain to you why it is, and I can explain to you why a right-of-way easement is not a road for Section 280A, and why a Lot 2 should not be able to have access over that easement to Nanny Hagan Road.
Well, I think we've given, I understand why you're upset that he had to wait for tonight, and I don't understand you don't like what the board is saying. That's certainly reasonable for you to feel that way. However, I think the board's position, at least as far as I'm aware, is going to be that we're not entertaining this application, that the board does not feel that it should have even been put on the agenda for the reasons that Mr. Lopato stated, and I therefore move to close the public session.
I think we should be allowed the opportunity to speak and present to this board
Second to close the public session.
why.
If you have another option, go ahead.
When we discussed the original application, it was determined that the people that resided and used that street were concerned about traffic, they were concerned about construction equipment, They were concerned about debris, and we addressed that. We told them that one of the conditions of the zoning approval was that a bond would be put up to protect the road.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to interrupt you for a second.
Well, no, let me just finish.
Respectfully, and I'm going to suggest that the board move into executive session, which is not in violations of the Opens Meeting Law. We meet privately to discuss a legal matter for a legal interpretation of what we're discussing about and to seek legal advice. So we could come back and proceed in one fashion or the other in the best interest of the town of the board. That is my application, that we move into executive session to privately.
I would like to hear what the chairman has to say.
That's very nice, sir, but I have a motion on the table. So.
I,
Would anybody like
I'll
to-
second the motion to go into
Second.
executive session at this time.
okay. Mr. Dorr? Okay, Ms. Novak?
I vote aye.
All right, we're going to go into executive session to discuss this matter.
So everybody gets to wait here for a few minutes. We'll be back in a few minutes. Thank you.
Dying over here. Yes. After our executive meeting, the board has decided...
Can I request what,
Yeah, you take care of it.
what did your attorney
Do you want me to-
say?
Yes,
Want me to?
you can take care of it from here, please.
Can I, which attorney did you
At
speak,
this-
which attorney did you speak
At this
to?
point in time.
Excuse me, which attorney did you speak to?
at
We
this
have
point
several
in
members
time-
of the
Mr.
board.
Mr. Chairman,
Excuse
do you
me.
want to speak?
Yes,
Which
I'm sorry.
attorney did you speak to? I just want to know that.
Mr. Chairman, at this point in time, move to reject application Z2451 based upon the interpretation that the applicant has no standing to make such an application at this time. And I move that the board approve such action.
Can I just ask a question? Which attorney
I'll
did
second
you,
the application to reject the application.
which attorney did you speak to? You said you went to executive discussion for a legal matter.
We are
Which
in a
attorney
vote.
did you speak to?
Thank you, sir.
Vote to
You're in
reject.
you're in violation of the open meetings law. Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. You are in violation of the open meetings law.
Mr. Chairman, we have a vote on the table.
We have a second.
We have a second and a
A
vote.
second. Okay, Ms. Novak,
I vote to reject.
Mr. DeChico?
I made
Yeah,
a motion to vote
Georgia?
to
All
reject.
right. Mr. Dorr?
Reject.
And the chairman makes a motion to reject.
As such, the application.
You are in
is on-
violation of the open
Because the
meetings law.
application
Do you
was off the
understand that?
agenda,
Do you understand you're in
I now
violation of the
move
open
to
meetings law?
Close the meeting based upon there being.
Did not speak to any
other
attorney, did you not have a legal issue to go back and discuss? You're
Move
in-
to close the
May-
meeting.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
I'll second.
All right. Mr. Dorr?
Aye.
Ms.
Aye.
Novak?
I also,
Meeting
again,
closed.
there was a memo written that I am here, and that is part of your code, that I am allowed to come here based on a memo of the building inspector and have my opinions reviewed by this board. That is what is in your town code. So you are not only in violation of the open meetings law, that you had a meeting prior to this hearing, which you already admitted that you
Your
just
comments
went back
are off
in
the
the
record, and
meeting.
they're not- and
That's,
they're
that's,
misrepresenting what was stated.
it's not misrepresenting
And
what
they're
was
off the record
stated.
as the meeting is
It's
over.
not misrepresenting what was stated.
The
And secondly, I have an
application
opportunity
is
based
rejected
on your,
for no
based on your
standing. The
code,
meeting is over.
based on your
Thank you very
code,
much.
I have an
Please close the
opportunity
record.